10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's start the show.
Right now we are sitting down with my favorite Arkansas State University running back ball. We have a guy who's fought on Dana White's Contender Series, a guy who's a big-time name in MMA, a former Mr. Money in the Bank from WrestleMania 23, former WWE United States Champion, a former two-time TNA Heavyweight Champion, Mr. This guy directed Batman Heart of Ice on YouTube, an amazing fan film. Someone who was in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the Ultimate Fighter at one point. Helped run and promote Championship Wrestling of Arkansas for the little bit of time that it was around, as well as a professional wrestler from the early 90s. The guy is running Street Beefs Dirty South, a professional MMA fighter, and looking to make a debut sometime in the near future in bare knuckle boxing. We're the one and only Jason Voorhees, Mr. James Stokes himself. How's it going, James? Good to see you again.
You are now experiencing the Adam Talks Podcast Season 2.
Welcome back to another great episode of the Adam Talks Podcast, right here on whatever platform it is you're watching or listening to us on. This episode's going to be a lot of fun. We have an awesome guest coming on, someone I'm super happy that I got the chance to talk to and get on the show. It's really cool being me right now. That's all I'm going to say about that. But before we get into the guest or anything like that, can I ask you to do one real quick thing? It takes a couple seconds out of your day, and it helps everybody out in the process. If you're watching us on YouTube, there's a subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it if you push that subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple Podcasts, could you hit that follow button? Drop a comment on any of those as well. We love to hear from you. But guys, today's guest is someone that was on WWE's Next Gen show on Roku TV. 8-episode series. She ended up making it to NXT before recently being released, and now she's performing at Reality of Wrestling for Booker T. We have Emma Diaz on the show today, and this is a lot like the Pope Elijah Burke episode. This one is all audio. So this one you get a full hour-long conversation, all audio. If you have YouTube Premium and you're watching the video, you're used to seeing the conversations happen, just turn that screen off and listen to us just like it's on any other podcast. But without any further ado, here is my conversation with Emma Diaz.
On the show. Thanks for being here.
Hi, how are you? I'm happy to be here.
I'm awesome. This is outstanding. I'm super stoked about this. I've been like we were talking just a second ago about my kids watching. I was like, I'm going to talk to her, and they're like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, because me and the girls, we've watched Next Gen, like all 8 episodes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were super stoked about it. One of my daughters 13, the other one's 8. My 8-year-old was like, no way! I was like, yeah, I'm talking to her. So,
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, ma'am. Whenever it comes to sports, you were in rugby. Did you always want to be in sports? Was it always a sports-oriented thought process for you?
Yes, my father was an athlete in Cuba. He did judo for the national team. So both my parents, they always put me in sports. My mom played a little bit of softball growing up in New York, but she was mostly like a personal trainer my whole life. So if I wasn't in sports, I was somehow in the gym with her. So I guess being at a sports practice was way better than being trained by my mom at 8 years old.
Right on. So were you in sport, were you doing different sports from a young age?
Yes, so I did soccer, karate, cheer, dance, gymnastics. Cheer, dance, and gymnastics were my main sports that I actually stuck with, but I did try a little bit of soccer and karate when I was really little. Wow.
What was the most difficult out of those?
Gymnastics, definitely.
I could do a flip to save my life. I don't know how anybody does that kind of stuff. That's nuts. I think as far as being in sports, I was never very big. I'm like 5'6", and I've always been really small. So I mean, I have never been one to get in there and do a whole bunch of football or basketball or baseball or anything. So for someone to be able to get in there and do it from an early age and to continue, you've got to be really dedicated. Was it hard to stay dedicated throughout all this time, or was it easier because you had people that in your life that were, sports based or athletic based?
It was definitely easier to be dedicated, as like doing the sport that I loved. So once I found like the passion for the sport, it was easier to be dedicated. So at first,
Okay.
the sport that I was most dedicated to was gymnastics, and then it carried on into flag football, and then into rugby, and now into pro wrestling.
Wow. How did you get into rugby?
So I was playing flag football and as well as tackle football, and my senior year. I was just training at a park, and one of the coaches for a local rugby team approached me, and he pretty much recruited me for his his girls rugby team. And I was like, sure, like I'll try this out. And he presented like the fact that I can potentially go to college for playing rugby and like get a scholarship for it and stuff. So I was like, I might as well. And I pretty much played like 3 games and ended up reaching out to a bunch of colleges and ended up committing to Life University.
Wow. What is the big difference? I mean, like I said to you before we got on here, my cousin did rugby, but played rugby, but I don't really know how it works, how much it seems a ton different than football, but there's a lot of aspects that seem super similar to football as well. What
Right.
is like the what's like the big differences in it for not an idiot, but for I was calling myself that. Sorry, but for someone who's ignorant to rugby, what is the differences between rugby and any other sport?
So rugby to me is like a mixture of almost every sport, because we do conversion kicks like football. We stay on the field, for offense and defense like soccer, and we kind of like play down the field and back of an 80-minute game, which is like very similar to soccer. We throw the ball in like soccer, and then like in lineouts, we lift each other up like cheerleaders. So to me, it's like, and then obviously the tackling and stuff is all very like football related, very like combat sport related. So rugby is like a mixture of a bunch of sports, and it's like the most technical sport that I've ever played.
Oh my goodness! So like it seems like looking at it, it seems like there's not a ton of technique, but from what you just said, it's a very technical game.
Right.
How is it super technical? Like you see a lot of people out there and they're huge and stuff, but I mean from an outsider's perspective, I would assume a lot of people think that's a bunch of meatheads out there running after a ball. But explain the technical aspect to me.
So, like obviously with offense and defense, there's a structure and there's different type of plays. And there's different ways to kind of like play the game depending on the team that you're playing against. So with 15s rugby, which is like what I played, it gets technical when, you don't want to be playing on your side of the field too much. So, in order to get down the field, we might kick the ball to the other team. And even though that means that they have possession, we're on their side of the field. So it's like, that's like one example of like just how to kind of have advantage in the games, even though it doesn't really make sense because the other team might have possession of the ball. We're just on their side of the field. So that's like
Okay.
one way, but there's so many. I mean, the way that we defend, maybe we don't shoot up on the line when the ball is being passed out. Maybe we let the ball get passed out to the end before we actually, play a different type of defense. It's very, very technical. You have to be like a smart player, especially playing against really good teams. because if not, you can definitely get beat by structure. And it's a very team sport, like in order to win, like all 15 players really have to be like on board with what's going on, because if one person messes up, then it kind of just affects the whole entire game plan.
Yeah, man. I don't know how you go about doing all this stuff. Like football is hard enough, but rugby, like you said, a mix of all these other things. So in football, there's like fumbles and there's interceptions and such like that. Are there moments in games of rugby where it's like that, like fumbles or interceptions or anything like that?
Oh, for sure. Like if if you drop the ball and it bounces, that would be a knock on, and then it calls for a scrum, which you potentially lose the ball to the other team. So it's like that's another important thing, being able to do the simple things like catch and pass the ball properly.
Yeah, and that's all underhand from what I remember seeing my cousin doing. The scrum is whenever you're like linked arms. Is that correct?
Yes. And then yeah, we pass
Okay.
underhand and laterally.
Right on, right on. So you started this. You said you played 3 games in high school, and then you started search around and went to Life College. What was your experience like there?
So, I had only had like 3 games under my belt. So I was very new and I was simply just like given an opportunity. I had to work really hard to learn, and I learned quick that it wasn't just about being physical. It was about being a smart player and really watching a lot of rugby and learning all the logistics of, what it takes to be a good rugby player. And so that included me heading to Arkansas over the summer when we were on the off season and training at ARPTC, which is the American Rugby Pro Training Center. And I trained there for like 2 to 3 months, and it was in Little Rock, and all we would do was train in the morning, train at night. Like we would just train all day. And so by the time I headed back to Life, my sophomore year, I was like way ahead of the game, and it wasn't long, before I was like on the starting varsity side.
Oh wow, man! What did y'all seasons look like there?
So we had fall season, which was like a preseason for 15s, and then our actual season actually started in January, and we had the finals in about April. And then we got into sevens, which is a different type of rugby. And that started from like May to like July. Like, yeah, seven season is like in the summer. So when I went to ARPTC, it was like mostly seven season because I went over the summer.
Oh wow. I'm guessing y'all were very successful. Had a great team and everything, and were really successful. Am I correct on saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually won 15's nationals this year.
Oh
So I
wow.
wasn't a part of it, but last year, my senior year, we almost won. The score was 12-14. So that was awesome to have been a
Whoa.
part of, like almost beating our rivalry team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man. So how did the recruitment from WWE work for you? I mean, you were doing really good in rugby. Y'all had almost won the nationals. Y'all got to the very like the championship game and came up a little bit short, but they saw talent in you. How did you get approached by WWE to come and do this tryout?
So I was actually contacted directly through one of the recruiters because basically one of my trainers from my childhood worked with a local WWTR talent relations, like someone in there. He worked, close to him, and he was always looking for like football players that were done with their careers that maybe wanted to go to the WWE, but instead he had a girl, which was me. And so that's how like that connection happened. it wasn't that they reached out to me on DM on Instagram like they normally do with everybody else. So it was like somebody reached out to me directly.
Oh, wow. So your process was just slightly different than everybody else's. So normally that's how they would go about doing that, just reaching out to you on social media?
Yeah, like if you have a very big social media platform and they see that, you have pretty much a good base, like they recruit you. But I didn't have, a big social media platform like whatsoever. So I was like very grateful to have been on the show and get that type of exposure.
Oh, wow. So you get this message. What was your initial reaction? Did you even know about, like, I'm sure you knew or you heard about WWE. Were you a fan at all of WWE before that?
I was not. I was not very familiar with WWE, but I did, of course I knew like the big names and the legends and stuff like that, but I wasn't a huge super fan. But I definitely grew to be a fan very quickly, and I grew respect for the business immediately.
Yeah. I imagine it was brutal for you, but I've seen in the show whenever I was watching, you thrive on that kind of what is it, physical interaction, that physical athleticism. You thrive in that area. So was it difficult going from rugby to pro wrestling?
It wasn't completely difficult, but it was at the same time. Like the mental stuff and I've never been in a ring before, so the adjustment was definitely tough, but it was definitely something that I loved as soon as I started.
Man, I saw the like I watched just like millions of other people watched your and y'all's journey. I can turn my camera. Haha. Anyway, um, so I watched y'all's journey just like millions of other people did, and I seen y'all go in there. The first day was just kind of like a meet and greet, it looked like, and then after that, y'all got suited up and went out on the field, and there was like three rings out there and stuff.
Yeah.
To me that would be overwhelming, like the feeling and seeing all of this stuff, and it was right before WrestleMania 39 as well. It looked like,
Yeah.
man, what was that like for you?
I definitely did not know what to, so I had no expectations. I just knew that, like I was confident in my athletic abilities, and I knew that that's where I was going to strive the most. So I wasn't too worried about it. I was honestly excited for, that part, but of course I had, no other option but to go out there and do my best cuz I was already there.
Right. Uh, was it very competitive while you were out there? Like, I know there's a lot. I'm a very small time independent wrestler here in Arkansas. I've had six. I'm having my six matches. I'm having my seventh in July. And I know it's always, hey, what's up? How's it going? Cool, behind the scenes and everything. But for a tryout, I'm guessing there had to have been at least a little bit of competition. Am I right?
Yeah, there was competition, but everyone was super nice for the most part. Yeah, I
Okay.
got along well with everybody. It was a very supportive environment, I will say.
What was the most difficult part? Was it promos? Was it in-ring work? Was it learning the technical parts of it?
Definitely the promos. I will say I wasn't as confident in myself as I am now, than I was before, especially at the tryout. So definitely the promos.
How did you overcome that hurdle? Was it just practicing promo classes or
Yeah, I would literally cut promos in the mirror. I would, you know, um, pretty much self-evaluate and try to figure out who am I, who do I want to portray, like do I have any insecurities, like why do I lack any confidence? So figuring all those things out kind of helped me progress and grow in the promo aspect of things. And I knew that,
you?
promos is the biggest and most important part of the business. So if I didn't have like a strong personality and a bunch of charisma and, have the ability to connect with a crowd and to connect with fans, it wouldn't be for me in the long run.
Right. I think that as far as promos go, it's got to be, in my opinion at least, it's got to become it has to come from you, at least a part of you. You
Right.
have to pull something out of yourself, And I think that the most difficult part probably, I mean, would have to be, I don't know if it's the public speaking aspect of it or if it's finding that part. For you, what would you say? Would it be just being in front of people saying all this stuff, or is it trying to find that part of you to bring out for that promo?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely just, for me, it's kind of just knowing what exactly to talk about. I kind of have a fear of like not knowing what to say next. Because
Yeah.
I'm not a huge talker. I was never like a huge extroverted talker, like can spend hours talking to someone and talk about anything. So I definitely practiced on, like, okay, here's a pair of socks. Let me talk about these socks for 30 minutes and let me try to sell these socks to somebody. So like that's what it's really about, like being able to talk about anything and talk for as long as you desire.
Oh wow. So we jumped forward past or to the very end of next gen, and you and those select people are chosen to be brought into WWE NXT. But even before that, it's you going against Bree in that final training match to decide who's going to be in that first match. What was that like for you?
During that time, I really just wanted to get that match, because it was a competitive. In that moment it was competition to me. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
get that match, and I would have liked for my dad to have come up to Orlando and be able to watch me, make my debut in front of the NXT arena and do something that has never been done before. So I was just thinking, like I was just in competition mode at that point.
Yeah, definitely. It was very heartbreaking, seeing you not win and seeing your emotion afterwards, because that had to have hit really hard, had to have hurt really bad, because you worked your ass off to get where you got to, and
Right.
then just to come up that much short and not be able to do that. But
Yes.
luckily, I'm guessing luckily you did get to do some live appearances on NXT to get some training reps in, right?
I did. So, we continued to train, and I eventually made my debut with a six-woman tag. It was me, Stevie Turner, and Kaya Saint versus Thea Hale, Fallon Henley, and Kalani Jordan. So that was awesome to go against, some of the best women on the NXT roster. And then I was able to make my singles debut against Lola Vice shortly after that, before my release.
Yeah. What was it like finally having your moment in a singles match in front of an audience and everything? What was that feeling like for you?
It was awesome. The crowd was definitely behind me. I got to make my debut in Orlando, so a lot of the home crowd that watched the show and that is at NXT every Tuesday was there. So I definitely, got a lot of cheers and I had a lot of people behind me. So, which was amazing because obviously everyone loves Lola Vice as well. So you'd think that they just wouldn't pay attention to me at all. But the fact that they did pay so much attention to me, even though I was sharing the ring with someone like Lola Vice, was a great feeling.
Definitely, definitely. One, all right. I was watching the WWE draft, and there was tons of NXT talent in the ring, on the floor, around the ring, all of that. Were you there for that?
Yes, I was actually sitting besides Olena and Bree and Jonah. We were all sitting in a row together, because we were all part of the Next Gen show.
Hmm. Wow, what was that? What was that like? Because I mean, what was that process like? Were you watching the show from there and then seeing the results like we saw it from home as well, or was it a little different?
We found out who was getting drafted at the same time as everybody else found out. We were watching the draft live, and it was pretty amazing to see how many women actually got drafted up to Raw and SmackDown.
That's pretty cool.
Donna James and Lyra and Blair, they're very hardworking and very good workers, and they definitely deserve to be up there. They're definitely women that I looked up to my whole time at NXT.
So we jumped forward just a little bit past that, and unfortunately, you were released by WWE. That had to have taken the wind out of your sails a little bit, I'd assume.
It did. I will say I worked very hard, and I completely can say that I did everything I could to prove myself. But at the end of the day, I believe it was just a business decision, nothing personal, and I hope to be back soon.
Oh, definitely. And I assume you will be back soon. I was just going to say, just because you were released now doesn't mean you can't come back at some point. Doesn't mean they won't ask you to come back. You go out there and do what you're doing at Reality of Wrestling or shoot anywhere, and you get doing good enough, they'll notice you and bring you right back. You'll get an even better position than you were in before. I mean, look at Cody Rhodes. I mean, he's a definite story of that. Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes. Both of them went away for a year and then came back.
Chelsea Green as well is someone that I've looked up to along the way, because she also spent time away from WWE and did the indies and made her way back.
Yeah, definitely. Naomi's another one that did the same. She went to Impact and became the Knockouts champion and then came back at the Rumble. So very big things. Do you have a lot of inspiration since you've been in the business for, about a year now or so?
Yes, inspirations as far as what?
Oh, as far as wrestling promos, anything. Do you have inspirations from the business that you look up to and you're like, I want to be as good as this person, or I want to be able to shoot a promo as good as The Rock or whoever?
I definitely, someone that I admire a lot is Lita, from like the Diva era.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely Natty is a very well-rounded worker. She's amazing, and she's one of like the sweetest people I have ever met. So she's someone that I really look up to, and I've actually started training at the dungeon. So
oh, wow.
So it's cool to build that relationship with her and get any guidance that I can from her. And I really admire how fast Tiffany Stratton was able to make it on SmackDown. I think she's one of the most athletic and talented people that I have ever witnessed. So she's someone that I look up to as far as being able to go out there and be a star so fast.
Oh my gosh, yeah, her rise was meteoric. I mean,
yeah,
quick, couple of years, and she's already on the main roster doing big things,
Yeah, 2 years.
That's nuts.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's almost unheard of. Brock Lesnar, I think, is the only other one that I could think of that may have done the same thing. You know, well, that's nuts. I think that you're going to go far as well because you're physical, man. I'm talking physical. When I was watching the show, even physicality is the word I would use to describe you. You're very physical.
Thank you. Yeah, pro wrestling is a very physical sport, and anyone that thinks otherwise is wrong.
Completely agree. There ain't nothing not physical. That was a double negative. It's definitely physical whenever you're getting chopped across the chest and getting lit up or getting slammed onto the mat or whatever. I mean, it's physical.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I've walked out of matches with red handprints on my chest. It's great. I love it. Yeah. So you got out. The wind is out of the sails. Where did you go from there?
So from there, I made my debut at Reality of Wrestling, and I had my first ladder match. So that
Whoa.
was crazy, and I'm excited for that episode to air on Ro.
Wow. What was I asked the same question 80,000 times, but I gotta know what was that like being in a ladder match? I mean, that's nuts. I couldn't
Yeah,
imagine
it
being in a
was.
ladder match.
I definitely didn't know what to expect because it was also my first indie show ever. So I was getting my first indie show experience as well as my first ladder match experience. So I will say everything went really well and it was good, and I'm glad that I knocked it out of the park and can say that I've officially had my first ladder match, which is cool because I'm sure, anyone that I come in with hasn't gotten an opportunity like that. So I'm glad that I'm getting a lot more reps and a lot more exposure and being thrown in the fire, at such an early point in my career.
Are you getting to learn from a lot more different people? Like just different people with different walks and different experiences, asking questions and being like, "Hey, how can I do this better?" Or have you got to sit under different learning trees since you've been in wrestling?
Well, I've learned from, a lot of people at the PC, like a lot of the NXT roster. And of course, like the best coaches that there is at NXT. But as far as on the indie scene, not really, not yet. Of course, Brian Pillman has helped me tremendously. I will say he's like my main supporter and my main mentor.
Definitely, definitely. It's always good to uh, have someone there that you can trust and look up to as far as the business or even in your personal life. Have a good person there beside you. It's great.
Right.
Um, what do you got coming up next for you? You going to be on another reality of wrestling show? Or are you doing any other bookings?
Yeah, so I'm doing another episode of Reality of Wrestling on June 8th. So hopefully I can have a singles match, and that is going to
Definitely.
be awesome.
Right on. Right on. Have you been trying to take bookings as well as work reality of wrestling, like for other promotions, or are you just trying to build your
Yeah,
name
I'm
through that?
actually coming to Arkansas on August 3rd.
Ooh.
Yes.
What are you doing
Uh,
August 3rd?
I'm wrestling in Arkansas. I'm doing a meet and greet and a match.
What's the promotion?
Let me check on that. I have these all in my calendar.
Take your time, ain't no rush. Again, I said it before we got on here, but I'm very appreciative of you coming on here. It means a lot to me. Me and my two beautiful little girls watched that show from 1 to 8, all episodes, and they were just sucked in, and I was sucked in because they were sucked in. So it's really awesome getting to get to chat with you.
Of course, I'm glad I can make it on. Mm, I've done so many podcasts and interviews. I'm like looking through my email. Mm,
Are podcasts hard for you to do? Like, is it hard for you to talk on a podcast, or is it easier for you to do? Did you learn any kind of interviewing skills through WWE or anything?
I definitely did learn, how to be more creative and how to communicate better and stuff. So I definitely like doing them way more.
Right on. Did you do any while you were playing rugby, like for local news channels or anything?
No, surprisingly, no.
That's unusual because like whenever you get teams that are doing really good, man, press is all over them most of the time.
I know, but rugby is just not like a big thing, especially like women's rugby. You know, it's like one of the most ducked off sports. It's not like gymnastics and football. They get all
That
the
makes
press.
that makes you very unique, though, as a female rugby player. It's like you're one of a
Yeah.
kind, you
Right.
know. So that's cool in itself, you know. And I think that, uh, you know, if you're whenever you're in a wrestling match, I got ADHD, so my subjects kind of switch on the fly. Uh, but I think whenever you're in a wrestling match, you're kind of still in a team environment, even though it's just two people in there. You two have to work as a team to build this awesome story in the ring. Whether it's a whether it's just a match that happens, or whether it's a match that happens out of a story. It's awesome being able to get in there and work with someone and build this in ring story together. For me, the most important thing about wrestling is storytelling, because a lot of people can get caught up in the moves. Did you learn a lot about storytelling throughout your performance center time?
I really just got to, sit back and watch. I wasn't really a part of like any storylines on TV or any storylines in general. So I'm excited to now be on the indies and hopefully, be in my own storyline.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, like I'm ready for that. But the promotion in Arkansas is called DCW.
Ah, Mulberry. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right on.
I'll be out
It,
there August 3rd.
Shoot, maybe I can make a trip down there on August 3rd and come and watch you wrestle and get to say hey and get a picture with you or something. That'd
Cool.
be
Yeah,
cool.
that would be cool.
But as far as storytelling, as far as storytelling, the other thing I was saying was, it's not just being in a storyline. It's while you're in the ring, you're telling this story. Whether it's a little guy against the big guy's overpowering, the little guy's got to come back and win, or if there's two evenly matched dudes, one guy's got to be bad, the other guy's got to be good. Otherwise, it's not going to be nearly as interesting. And you build this story during the match. Uh, I guess the question I was trying to ask a little bit earlier, I may not have been clear about it, was have you learned about in-ring storytelling while you were there? Like just while you're in the mat, telling this story to keep the audience enthralled and involved?
Not really. I will just say the one thing that Fit Finley always told us was, don't work for yourself, work for the fans. Like we're putting on a show, so always, think we're working for our fans and not for ourselves. So that's something that always stuck with me.
Okay. Is there any solid advice that you've kept with you apart from that throughout your time that you've learned? Excuse me.
Definitely, you get what you put in. You get what you put in, in the business. So, if you work super hard, eventually, how do I say this? What's the saying? The cream always rises.
That's
That
a
is,
macho man line there. That's true. That is true. But that's a macho man line as well. Randy Savage.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The cream always rises. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great stuff. Great stuff. Um, as far as wrestling, have you been able to take any more of it in, like watch any of it or anything like that? Have you paid attention to any of the product from any promotions, whether it's AEW, WWE, or anything else?
I definitely watch all of WWE stuff and as well as TNA Impact.
Hmm.
I don't really watch too much AEW.
Right on, right on. Um, what are some of the more interesting stories that you're interested in finding out who's going to win and who's going to lose that's going on currently?
Hmm.
See, we got a Saudi show coming up for WWE at the moment.
Yes.
King and Queen of the
Oh,
Ring.
yeah,
Friday night.
I'm definitely watching that. I'm definitely gonna be watching Lyra Valkyria out there.
Oh my gosh.
She's great.
She's amazing. She's really good. You know, I'd only seen her a couple times before Raw, and I watched her and I was just blown away how good she is. You know, it's crazy because I think she was in NXT all that long either, was she? I don't think so.
She was in NXT UK for a good amount of time.
Oh, okay. That's why I didn't see her. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Huh. Right on. As far as Impact goes, are you looking to try to get into Impact at some point as well?
I am, yes. That's one of the big companies that I'm definitely looking forward to working for.
What is the most exciting stuff that you've been able to do so far in the wrestling world?
Definitely be a part of WWE NXT. I will say that's the best that I've done so far.
Right on. Right on. I mean, I feel like you probably made bonds with people that is just going to last a lifetime. You know,
Yeah.
and that's awesome because you know in my time in the small promotions I've been in, I've met people that I'm going to be friends with. At least not super close, obviously, because I'm not super close friends with any of them. But I'm friends with a lot of people, and it's cool having this string of people that's you make connections with that'll last for a long time, potentially all your life. Going back to whenever you were released, I mean, like we said, the wind was taken out of the sails. How did you deal with that feeling? Was it just get up, dust yourself off, and go about your business, try to find something else, or was there a moment where you had to kind of reevaluate and talk yourself up, to build yourself up to not feel so, for lack of a better word, shitty?
Brian definitely helped me with that. He definitely opened my horizons and showed me that there's a whole other world outside of WWE. So that definitely made me feel better almost immediately. And it made me excited, for the next opportunity.
Oh yeah. I know that for me going through a down time period or something, and for other people that I've talked to, it's very difficult to get out of that if you're alone. And it's great whenever you have some kind of support system around you, and it's awesome that you have Brian by your side to be able to, help you with these things. It's awesome because whenever you don't have a support system, you feel completely isolated and alone. And I know that for a fact because I felt that so many times in my life. And just knowing that you have good people around you that are going to lift you up and that are going to say, hey, this ain't the end. You got plenty of time and you got plenty of horizons ahead of you that you can cross. You can go and find great things to do, and you're going to do great, So it's always wonderful to have that feeling. Did you reach out to Reality of Wrestling, or did they reach out to you?
Yeah, we reached out to Booker, so it was a perfect opportunity.
Right on. Have you got to get any hands on from Booker?
Not any, technical stuff just yet, but he was very happy with the ladder match. So I hope to continue to get really good advice from him.
Definitely. You're in there with all kinds of big names. That's where Roxanne Perez, current NXT Women's Champion, came from, Reality of Wrestling. Zilla Fatu, if I'm not mistaken, is in Reality of Wrestling at the moment as well, correct?
Yeah.
Got a lot of big names down there working with them, and I'm sure before it's all over, you're going to learn several things from those independent veterans that have been on the scene for a while and, done all kinds of things. What excites you about wrestling?
Definitely, the ability to put a smile on, people's faces and help them escape from their normal everyday lives.
Definitely.
And of course,
'Cause
still being able to be an athlete.
yeah. I mean, because that's what we're here to do as wrestlers. We're here to take people and immerse them in this larger than life, as my dad calls it. My dad calls it a male soap opera, which, I mean, yeah, pretty much. You got fighting, you've got badass girls that can fight as well. You've got all the car crash TV in certain spots. There's comedy, there's drama. It's a soap opera essentially, And you could take the word male out of that completely and just call it a soap opera, because there's just as many women out there that love wrestling as much as men do now, whereas before it was just majority dudes. But I'm getting off on a ramble. So yeah, sorry. um, yeah, I think that you're going to do great on the indies. I think you're going to do wonderful, especially because of your physicality, especially because of your drive. And I assume your drive comes from your dad helping you to get to this position and in a different kind of way. Am I right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Because he came from Cuba, you said.
Yes.
He came from Cuba and he had to escape, right?
Yes. That was a very rough and inspiring story.
That probably inspires you to keep going even whenever you're in a hard time, because if he did that, this ain't nothing.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's definitely one of my top motivations.
I don't know how much you've watched wrestling since you've been in the business as a whole, because like you said, you weren't watching wrestling before, you weren't that aware of it. But I'm not sure how much you've watched since you've gotten into it. But if I can ask, who would be on your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling right now?
Probably Randy Orton.
The Viper.
Shawn
He's
Michaels,
great.
of course. Triple H.
Right on. Those are freaking good. Those are good, man.
Yeah.
You got all former world champions, all main eventers at WrestleMania. What all did you get to talk to any of, or not talk to? Did you get to see any of the main roster people while you were there, or talk to any of them? I know you've seen, you saw Hunter, Triple H, because I seen him on the Next Gen programming whenever he came and talked to all of y'all. And obviously Matt Bloom and Shawn Michaels was there the entire time.
Yes.
But did you get to interact with any of the main roster people? Did they come down and check your work? Y'all's guys workout or things like that?
Yeah, they definitely just gave us, like general advice, nothing really personal, or individual. It was, just general. So
what was the? Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying that it was cool to, like even interact with them in a group.
Definitely. What is one of the things you think you've improved on the most in wrestling?
I would definitely say, my promos and overall, my ring training.
Definitely. As far as during the match, there's a lot of communication going back and forth. Has that ever been a difficult thing for you to be able to, like, has there been moments where you're like, oh God, I didn't hear him, or oh God, I don't know, I didn't get that signal, or something where it messed up during a match, even if it was just a minor thing?
Not really. I mean, just like every other sport, like if you mess up, you just kind of keep going. But there really isn't really, any mess ups. It's just reps and,
Definitely. Get your reps in so that way you can get better at it. I mean, the only way you're going to get better at it is to do it. So, I mean, Absolutely. You know, I think as far as my opinion, you're very, you're very headstrong, very driven. And that's something you don't see a lot, honestly. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
that are driven, but there's not a lot of people that are driven and inspired the way that you are. And I think it's a testament to how hard you've worked throughout your entire, not only professional wrestling career, but your athletic career. You work hard at everything you do. You bust your ass and go 110% all the way through. So kudos to you all the way. And now, even though you're not in WWE anymore, you went right over and you were like, you know what? We're going somewhere else and we're going to wrestle again. Brian's going to help me out and we're going to get it done.
Thank
And
you.
you did it. As soon as you got out of there, you hollered at Booker T, the five-time WCW World Champion. And you hollered at him, and he was like, yeah, come on. And you got a match there. Now you got another match coming up. You're going to be doing other big things coming to the amazing, great state of Arkansas. I don't know, but yeah, coming to Arkansas, going to be in Mulberry in August. It's going to be a lot of fun. I imagine you're having a ton of fun doing this kind of stuff. Does it feel any more free than when you were in WWE?
Um, I would say for me personally, it feels a bit more stressful because there isn't really structure and consistency, and I don't really know exactly what's next. But it is an exciting journey, so it'll be fun.
Oh, definitely. Whenever you were in WWE, what was it like? Was it very? You said it wasn't very structured, or isn't very structured, I believe, just a second ago. Was it super structured, super organized in WWE compared to how it is at Reality of Wrestling?
No, I didn't mean it in that aspect. I'm saying like structure as in I didn't have to leave the town of Orlando and I had, my trainings
Oh,
and consistent trainings, not anything
okay.
about organizations or organizing and stuff. I
Yeah,
just
yeah. No, I wasn't. I
consistent.
wasn't saying. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
reality of wrestling is great. I just like I'm based in Orlando and I had a schedule like if I was in college, so that's what I meant. But now I'll be traveling pretty much everywhere.
I got you. I understand that, and I wasn't trying to say anything negative about Reality of Wrestling. Shoot, absolutely would love to see a show of Reality of Wrestling. It'd be awesome to be able to watch the programming live.
Yes.
I want to go and see all kinds of promotions, MLW and everything like that. I asked that because in past interviews with Ken Anderson and with Elijah Burke, they both talked about how it's different going from this giant juggernaut that's a well-oiled machine to a smaller promotion that's got a lot less people, a lot less wheels and stuff spinning. And that's all I was saying. I wasn't saying I wasn't trying to imply that Reality of Wrestling wasn't a well-oiled unit or anything like that. Uh, that's why I asked that. Little bit of misunderstanding on my part, or miscommunication. But now we're cooking on all cylinders. That didn't make sense. That was a bad analogy. But I'm sure you're having a lot of fun doing it still, though, right? I mean, getting to go different places and do different things now.
Yes, for sure. I'm excited.
And you've done a lot of podcasts. I know I seen one the other day, and you talked about it just for a moment earlier. Whenever I asked you about about where you're coming to Arkansas, and you had to look through all your emails and whatnot, you said you've done so many podcasts. That must be really, I feel like that would be very motivational as well. It's like I'm getting my reps in to be able to talk a little bit more fluently and to be able to get my story out a little bit more in a different way. My name's out there a little bit more. That probably feels really good to be able to do that and come on all these podcasts as well.
Yes.
Man, I'm very, very thankful that you're on the show because, like I said, I can't. I'm gushing. I'm sorry. But I me and the kids, like I said, me, the kids, and my dad. My dad got me into wrestling. We'd sit on the couch in the living room and we just watch Next Gen. And Dad was like, "Oh, these are the next. These are the ones that are they're going to be going to W." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, that's what this is. Yeah." And the girls were like,
Awesome.
"I want Emma. I want Bree. I want Emma." And I'm like, "It's going to be either Emma or Bree." And then both of y'all made it, which is freaking amazing. So,
Thank
um,
you. That's awesome.
yeah. It was a very family bonding sort of thing. We'd go in there. I think we binge watched it over like 2 or 3 days. So it was a lot of fun. I had a great time watching that. As well, I've had a great time on our conversation here. But we're winding down on that hour mark. It's coming close to being time to be up, and I've stolen a little something from another podcast and altered it slightly. Chris Van Vliet, a very big wrestling podcaster, he does this thing where he talks about gratefulness at the end of his show, and I like to do the same thing because I'm super grateful. So right now I'm gonna give 3 things that I'm grateful for, and afterwards I'll ask you the same. My things that I'm grateful for don't really change that much for the most part. You know, I very grateful, number one, for my support system, which is my beautiful fiance, my wonderful 13 and 8-year-old daughters, and my family. Anybody who's really supported me on any kind of journey that I've been on, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's music, wrestling, podcasting, anything. I'm very grateful to have them by my side. So that support system we talked about earlier with, you and Brian. I'm very grateful to have that support system to help me out and to push me to do better each and every time. The second thing is my guests, you guys, because if I'm being honest, Emma, there's no reason for you to even be on this show. I'm just some dude that loves talking to people. I like talking to people, like having cool conversations and stuff. So I'm very grateful for each and every guest that comes on here, especially, getting the chance to talk to you, getting the chance to talk to anybody else that likes to come on. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk to such awesome, amazing people such as yourself. And the third thing I am very grateful for is the good Lord above and my health, because for a while I have not felt to the top of my game health wise, and I'm working on getting better. I'm working on being able to breathe better and all kinds of stuff, because I had a lot of trouble breathing and coughing and everything, and it was just rough for a minute. And I'm slowly getting back into where I can do stuff a little bit better. And if I didn't have God in my life, the saying goes, without God, nothing is possible, and with Him, everything is possible. So very, very big things. Those are my 3 things that I'm grateful for. So, Emma, in this very moment, what are 3 things that you're grateful for?
I will have to join you on the support system from my family, my boyfriend, Brian, and my friends. Definitely, my health and my well-being. That's something that can't be bought. And the third thing, I will say, God, of course, as well.
Definitely. 3 things, definitely great things to be grateful for. Emma,
Yes.
thank you once again for coming on here. It means the world to me that you come on the show. I absolutely loved watching the journey that you went on. I loved hearing that you had signed to Reality of Wrestling. I heard about that through another clip of a podcast that I watched that you were on. And I just love the chance to be able to talk to you about your whole athletic career to date, pretty much. In bits and pieces. I'm very appreciative. I'm yammering on because I'm very, very grateful for you to be on here. Is there anything you wanted to promote or talk about, your social medias or anything else so people can follow you or find you?
Yeah, maybe my social media. It's M6Era on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I gotta go get my computer charger because my computer's running low.
That's completely fine. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Emma. I really appreciate that. And hopefully I can get you, hopefully I can get down to Mulberry and see you perform live and get to say hey, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, just let me know. Keep me posted.
I definitely will. You have a great rest of your evening.
All right.
It was really cool getting to talk to her. She's a survivor. She's a thriver whenever it comes to, fighting uphill. She goes 90-0, gives everything she has and puts all she's got into everything that she does. And she's a really cool person. Thank you so much, Emma, for coming on the show. It means a lot to me. I told you this off camera like at least 6-7 times. It means the world to me that you came on. Me and my daughters watched that. My dad watched it for a little bit with us. So it means a lot that you even came on the show to begin with. Thank you so much. Maybe we can get you back on down the road again at some point. Would love to have you back on. But as for right now, this episode of the Adam Talks podcast is concluded. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We're going to have a little bit of fun because it's another Ask Adam episode of the Adam Talks podcast. Can't wait to see the questions. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know I'm going to get several different questions, and I'm super excited about that. So, until next time, guys, always remember to listen when Adam talks. You guys have a wonderful day, evening, noon, night, doesn't matter when you're listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you again real soon on another episode of the Adam Talks podcast.